Hello, and welcome to this BrandSquare live webinar featuring Anthem's Director of Brand Experience, Rob Hollands. Rob will be covering Nestle's Projecting the Future of Retail. My name is Stephanie Campbell, and I will be your moderator for today. We are encountering some technical issues, so the webcam may not be displaying for you. We apologize for any inconvenience. Before we get started, I would like to cover some housekeeping items. This webinar is interactive, so we encourage you to submit questions at any time during the presentation using the questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel. We will be monitoring the questions and will address them at the end of the presentation. We will also record this webinar for future viewing and will send out a link to the recording next week. Please join in the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag BrandSquare. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Rob.
That's great. Thanks, Stephanie. And hello, everyone, and thanks for joining today. I'm sorry you can't see us on the webcam, but I hope you'll still enjoy the presentation. I'm really excited to share with you some of the thoughts that we've had in the lead up to this, and also to present our recent innovation for Nestle. So a quick introduction to me. I head up the brand experience and innovation team here at Anthem. I'm primarily based out of our London office, but work across the world, as most people do these days. And I'm perfectly located in the UK's bubble of tech companies, startups, and future thinkers. I originate from a pure play digital background, working for a number of leading agencies, and founding an award-winning digital agency, which became part of the group in 2010. My passion really lies in connecting the many hundreds of consumer moments that are happening every day with brands and through technology, whether they're big moments, small moments, or even micro moments, wherever they occur, on shelves, from packs, or in people's homes. So just before we begin, I wanted to give you some background into why and how we decided to innovate in this retail environment. It's an initiative that has seen us partner with the UK's largest grocer, as the Walmart, and the world's largest consumer goods company, Nestle. And the journey began during an initial innovation workshop that we ran with Nestle, focusing on the future. And the future is a place where myself and my team spend a lot of our time. And I love this quote from Larry Page, the CEO at Google, really saying that to succeed, we mustn't ever stop focusing on the future. So to take you through some of the insights that led us to begin this journey with Nestle and Asda. Firstly, the internet has absolutely changed shopping behaviour forever, both online and offline. But really, unlike the doomsday predictions of the last 10 years or so, we don't feel that physical retail is anyway destined for the history books. And it's really interesting that even up to a couple of years ago that our UK government here was describing the UK high street as being dead. This definitely isn't true. And what we're actually seeing is that the great learnings and many benefits from online retail, they're being transferred to the high street, where we can have the physical experience that actually as humans we really crave. And we've seen this with things like the Amazon store that's opened in Seattle. And here in the UK, one of the online furniture retailers that's big in Europe, Made.com, has opened a concept store in Brighton, so you can go and touch and feel and have an experience. Now, these offline retail environments and these online retailers are absolutely going to reimagine the physical retail space, which basically has remained pretty unchanged for decades. Now, in my spare time, I'm absolutely obsessed with looking at the many patents being filed online. I think it's a great indicator of the future. And we've seen Amazon, particularly around their Seattle stores and their future plans, have many stores, I'm sure, file lots of patents. And one of those included an automated checkout, very much focused on you being able to just go in a store, pick up an item and exit, and it handle all of that payment in the background so that their staff can focus on the experience and the service. So we're definitely going to reimagine the physical retail space. With this renewed importance of the physical, we also know that to win, brands must absolutely create memorable moments that capture their audience and create experiences that transform their brand value proposition. We're no longer in the business, and our clients certainly aren't in the business of just selling products. We absolutely must deliver experiences. And we know that if we wrap an experience around a product, we sell more things more often, whether that product's milk or mobiles or food or fashion. and this is especially true if we can personalise that experience. Now, we also have to use these physical environments to tell a story. I'm not going to talk about storytelling today. It's definitely another presentation, and you only have to open the many industry publications or attend a conference to understand the importance of storytelling for brands. But what I do want to share is the insight that retail, and particularly food and drinks brands and supermarkets or grocery stores, are having trouble telling stories. And we've seen that technology brands have taken over this storytelling space. And in fact, this year, in 2015, there was no supermarket or high street retailer in the top 20 storytelling brands. And this is actually the first time that that's ever happened. And in terms of food and drink brands, there was just one entry into that top 20 storytelling brands, and that was Guinness. They've all been replaced by these technology companies, with Apple taking the top spot. So there's clearly a need for these brands to tell a story. And we also need to connect with our consumers. We need to connect because every consumer is within touching distance of a device, and it's heavily influencing their purchase decision. We all have a smartphone with us, and according to Intel, by 2020, we'll each have 26 of these connected devices in our personal possession. In the in-store environment, it's now a fact that 80% of our consumers, or over 80%, are consulting their device in that store environment, in the aisle, and 1 in 10 of those customers are changing to their originally planned product purchase. Shoppers are turning to mobile devices, they're searching, they're comparing prices, they're seeking recommendations, and brands must redefine their physical experiences to connect throughout this customer journey. Now, Anthem, we're working with brands to win in these opportunities through something our team calls connected experience design. And that's really a recognition that more than ever before, the consumer journey and all of the touch points need to be connected experiences. We're understanding the many micro moments in those journeys, and we're connecting each of these points with relevant brand content. And you only have to attend one of the many brilliant conferences, of which there's been loads in this first quarter, from CES to South by Southwest, to know the value of connected brand experiences is absolutely going to boom in 2016 and beyond. So I hope that what I've taken you through so far underpins this innovation strand, and combined with our philosophy of connected experience design, started to give you the workings of how we define the brief here. So our task, we wanted to stop and engage the shopper, but not for too long. Our key target audience is mum. Whilst mum wants some inspiration in that store environment and some engagement, she also wants a fast and efficient shopping experience. We needed to deliver the brand story through a rich experience with storytelling at its heart, and we needed to cut through the complex physical environment and ultimately sell some product. Nestle identified with us Quality Street as the test brand for this project, and also we decided on a 3-month time frame covering key periods in their seasonal marketing calendar, particularly relevant for confectionery, which included Halloween, Bonfire Night, and culminating in Christmas. For those that may not know, Quality Street is one of the top seasonal confectionery brands in the UK. It's just celebrating its 80th birthday here, and it's big and widespread across Europe, so a key brand for Nestle. So we now had some good insights. We'd established our brief, we understood our brand and our time frame. We knew that the shopping aisle was going to be our battleground. And we know that when looking for product information, point of sale works, and is a reasonably effective medium. But it's a pretty hectic season in this store environment, and it's difficult to stand out. You can see our retailer. This is the actual space that we were going to execute within. This is probably a better representation at Easter, and we knew really that traditional points of sale wasn't going to cut through in this complex environment, in this clustered environment, and it certainly wasn't going to tell the story that we were hoping to deliver for the brand. We've explored lots of different options. We looked at augmented reality. We explored different mobile technologies and app technologies. These weren't quite right for our shopper, also not quite right for the environment, and lots of these environments are actually out-of-town stores, and there can be some connectivity issues. We didn't want people in that environment having to start to download apps. So the next obvious choice is screens. We've got a few issues with screens. One is that we don't feel they're that magical. Increasingly in the out-of-home environment, they're being associated with information and functional tasks. Things like looking up information, checking for sizes, purchasing a travel ticket. And we've also become overexposed to screens. They've been with us for a reasonable while now. We're surrounded by them. They're cheap, and they've lost some of their magic. They're also really difficult to integrate at the shelf edge. They get broken, and they also get occasionally stolen. They do still have a place, and at CS in particular, there are some brilliant demonstrations for the future of screens. And if you've got €100,000, there's certainly some brilliant screens that you can buy. But for this environment, they're just too far in the future and too expensive. I'm sure that'll change, but screens weren't quite right just yet. So what else? Well, we've done some really interesting projects in the past with projection. Usually this is to communicate on a very large scale. This is the O2 in London, a huge scale. And typically it's outdoors. And very traditionally it happens at night time when projection historically has been seen to be at its best. It definitely delivers an experience. It can tell a beautiful story, but it certainly hadn't been used in the retail environment. Now, it's important with creativity to try and leave assumptions behind. We always try to note our assumptions and think the opposite. It's a common innovative thinking technique. People normally associate projections with big images in the dark, as I've mentioned. They're typically delivered on purpose-made screens. But we found a technology partner, and we started to think about daylight visible images, which is now possible as LED has replaced bulbs in projectors, the costs have reduced, the lifespan's increased, and daylight visible projections become possible. It's also possible to project now on and around products, and we believed it would be possible to bring this to the retail environment, seamlessly blending digital content over this physical space. You may have seen on the internet some early concepts from the same development team that we're working with. So this is a Nike example for Nike ID, where you can overlay a pattern onto a grey shoe. You may have seen some work that was done for Fabergé in the Harrods store in London. This used, I think, over 30 projectors to project onto a huge egg in the window for Fabergé, in the window of Harrods, which was a great experience, but it still hadn't been brought to the retail and en masse. So we got cracking in our London studios, developing early prototypes. We started to look at mapping onto a point-of-sale unit, which would be going into a normal fixture. It would have to be constructed with normal materials. And a few prototypes later, we got something into one of our concept stores, or one of Nestle's concept stores, and we managed to prove that this was physically possible. It was absolutely a beautiful experience. Some work later to make it feasible to roll out, and we were pretty much done. And now, whilst I can't show you the full kind of interactive reveal on this screen, you can view it on our Anthem YouTube channel, and hopefully the link is there. I shall leave it there for a moment to see this really wonderful unit in action. So some important things to tell you, first of all. We've established now that you don't need a screen for projection. You can deliver this content onto any surface. The surface can be low cost, durable. We can map the projection around content. We made a slight tweak in store to actually put some light onto the product directly, so it doesn't have to be going into a physical header card like you can see here. It can actually project directly onto the product. It's wireless. Everything's controlled from the cloud. Content changes can be instantly pushed to the unit. We can change the whole creative experience based on sales, based on shopper insights. We can change it with new promotions. We can also change the content instantly based on a point in time, a time of day, or an event. We've explored things like the announcement of X Factor winners. We can instantly change the content that's on there, key kind of sharing occasion in this brand story. that Saturday night when the X Factor winners are announced, when you arrive in store that evening or over the weekend, we can have changed all of the content to fit that topical subject. We've efficiently and effectively deployed this to 10 stores in very diverse locations across the UK. We've reduced the install time down to 2 hours, including all of the fitting of the point of sale unit, which goes into an exact bay that's there already. It doesn't disrupt any of the existing fixtures. We've delivered really engaging experiences. We've been able to tell brand stories remotely across the 3 key purchase occasions that I mentioned earlier on during this 3-month trial. So we delivered Halloween content, we delivered bonfire night content, and we delivered the Christmas content that you can see in the background here. We've also been able to make tweaks throughout the activity, whether that's based on the seasons or topics, as I mentioned, or based on optimising the performance of the activity. And we've been able to control the units and monitor with the units and the interaction with the points of sale via forward-facing cameras, so we can always see what's going on in the store. And this gives you quite a nice insight into how the projectors are mounted and fitted out of reach and safely in the opposite aisle. And I guess one of the big things for us is that whilst the customers of the brand and Asda were definitely the target, we've also had a task to do to make sure that this is something that the store managers adopt, who are key stakeholders in this process, which has absolutely been a success. And I think in doing this, we really believe that store managers across the kind of portfolio of this retailer are absolutely desperate to see innovation in the aisle. They know it's something that can help them drive sales, and it's something that excites them as it should. And they've directly fed back to us, people have stopped, they've engaged, and they've purchased. As to Walmart as an organisation has described the activity as incredibly innovative. They believe it takes points of sale displays to a new level, and they describe it as a way of providing a whole new way of active selling, as you can see in their quote there. But I guess the kind of $1 million question with any new innovation is, did it actually deliver results? And it did. It sold lots of products. We obviously can't disclose the sales figures, but we're really pleased to share this statistic that you can see on the screen, that it's delivered a 41% increase in sales in the stores featuring the projections. That was the 10 stores that I mentioned, and that's compared to 10 stores where we deployed just static projection, which we describe as the control stores. And this is the really big one moving forward. I think we expected that something innovative and creative and engaging would deliver an increase in sales. We didn't expect it would deliver such a great increase. But there was also an interesting additional stat that this statistic of 41% increase in sales was based directly in the aisle, and at that bay of the product there was an increase in sales, but it also delivered an increase of 7% of associated products in different aisles within the store. So other quality street products, there was a 7% increase in sales. So what next? We're doing lots of different things. In terms of this project and this partnership, we're exploring a more significant rollout of the technology. We're also busy to do more to connect the units moving forward, and we're exploring lots of things, as you can imagine, like beacons, like motion sensors. We're looking at how to make it more multi-sensory. We're doing some really interesting things with directive audio, so that as an individual customer, without disturbing the other things going on in the store environment, we can direct audio at you. So it's a multi-sensory experience. We've just partnered with a superb tracking company to look at how we can make the tracking more advanced and deliver greater insights and ultimately performance. And hopefully you'll see the next iterations of those appearing in stores soon. And I'm nearly finished up, just in time for some questions, but quick summary. Physical retail is absolutely here to stay. but it will definitely be reimagined, and we're working to support this. I'm very excited about it. Brands must absolutely sell experiences and not products, and they must wrap a story around those experiences and connect everything that they do and all the different touch points. And finally, projected point of sale absolutely delivers results. We've proven that, and I'm sure that projected connected point of sale will exceed all expectations, as the projected point of sale has. And that's it from me.
Thank you, Rob. And now we'll open it up for questions. Please submit your questions into your control panel now.
So I'm just opening that up now, and I think there's a question from Adrian, so thank you for that. You've asked us just to define the static projection used in control stores. I haven't got a visual I can show you, but it was essentially delivering a similar brand experience in absolutely the same footprint and the same bay without there being projection. So it was just a static header card delivering the branding, delivering some of the Christmas artwork, but obviously with no animation on the same footprint and the same header card. I hope that answers your question, Adrian. Thank you for that. And there's another question from Courtney, just asking how easily this could be rolled out to lots of stores, which is a great question. Thank you for that. This is all cloud-based technology. We've gone into this innovation knowing that it has to definitely potentially be rolled out into lots of UK and European stores, but we've built everything around rolling this out globally. And the beauty of it is all of the technology is controlled from the cloud, so we can remotely change any of the content, we can remotely log into any of the units and see that whole global footprint of devices to check that they're on, they're up and working, and content's being displayed, and we can also view individual units in store via the forward-facing cameras built into the projection units. So it's definitely a global, it's based on all the kind of open source cloud philosophies of an application development. I hope that answers your question, Courtney. Thank you for that. I've got another question around, is there any risk to the damage or the theft of the projectors? So I hope you saw on one of the slides there, the projectors mounted above the aisle opposite the display unit. So unlike a screen that you might be compelled to touch or interact with, it's right out of the way. You need to be going in with ladders into that store environment and climbing up onto bays and shelves and spanners and toolkits to be able to remove those. But most importantly, I think because it disappears, almost none of the consumers that interacted with the experience ever turned to look at where that experience was coming from. So actually, it's kind of out of sight and out of mind, unlike a piece of signage. So I hope that answers that question. Just got one more question coming up, I think, from Kathy. See if I can get that. Okay, so great question. Corey, you're giving me a tricky one. So from Kathy, how would projection work in the freezer aisle? Now, we can't project onto glass, as you might be able to imagine. We can project through glass. So in that respect, it would be able to work on the same way, depending on what boarding or what surface was behind that glass. But we could definitely project on headers around there. So much as what's in the freezer aisle currently. If there's point of sale there, if there's any cardboard engineering there or structures there, we could project into those same spaces, and we could look to project right the way through the glass onto the product on the shelf in those freezers. So I hope that answers that. We are looking in the yogurt aisle as well, which is another interesting one for us. But again, that's looking at how we can either create new areas in that space, if that's a possibility, or project onto existing canvases that exist for us. Thanks, Kathy, for that question. Last question, or another question from Renee. So, hi, Renee, and thank you for your question. Was it difficult to get the stores on board? Now, in terms of the main store part, we did this as a partnership. We knew that this type of innovation would only work if we had partnership at the kind of top level, and it was a partnership with Asda Walmart. There then was a big job to do with onboarding the local stores, and really we did that by being very efficient and effective, but also giving them lots of upfront warning that this was coming to the store, by onboarding them and making them feel a part of that journey, which they absolutely were, by explaining the units and presenting them before they were put into stores. We'd worked with technology partners that the retailers were already using to actually implement some of the elements. So things like, it removed all of the issues like electricity sources, which is a consideration for projection of screens, and all of the health and safety issues that might be present as well. So the store managers were confident that this wasn't going to present any risk to them as a business. It was then just about making it as simple as possible for them, and that there wasn't any disruption to their stores, but also selling the idea to them and making them believe in the creativity, which they did. And another question there in terms of can live content be integrated into the experience? So a really great question. I'm glad someone's asked that. It absolutely can. As I mentioned, this is a cloud-based solution. It's connected via a few different methods. There's lots of options open to us in terms of how it's connected, whether that's a 4G connection or Wi-Fi. For this rollout, there was great Wi-Fi available in the stores, so that was our primary connection method with a 4G fallback. But with that connection and the cloud-based methodology, we're able to put any content on here. So we're currently exploring live social content going into these canvases, which I think would be really interesting. So you can associate social content around the product, and again, it's another area where Amazon's exploring how do they take their ratings, their feedback, the social content and ratings that are being generated around their products to the store environment, and that would be a really great way to do it, obviously with all of the moderation and filters that you'd expect around that, but that's definitely possible. And then I think there's one more question, which is from someone asking if we can give the YouTube address. So hopefully the YouTube address again, and there'll be some notes, I think, to follow up, and this will be available on YouTube, but hopefully you can see it on the screen there. Unfortunately, it's not a very friendly URL on YouTube. I'm sure that'll change in the future, but you should be able to see the address there.
Okay, great. Thank you again, Rob. It'll be interesting to see how brands leverage this technology moving forward and see how the retail environment evolves. And thank you all for joining us. As a reminder, you'll be receiving an email with a link to the video recording, which will also have the YouTube link in it, and we can also include the YouTube link in the email as well. And be sure to visit BrandSquare.com to register for next month's webinar with presenters Catherine Sloan from SGK and Benjamin Chong from Anthem, talking about men's beauty products going big in Asia. Thank you.